Welcome to part 2 of my portrait series. Last week I shared a time-lapse of how I drew the first eye. In this episode, I'll be drawing the second eye and walking through the process in a bit more detail so you could see the steps behind it. Now I'm going to go over the tools and materials I used to complete the next part of this drawing. On the far left we have an X-Acto knife. I only really use this to cut off the tip of this smaller eraser. For the reason of creating like a crisp edge so that I can go in and erase really small areas within the drawing. Then we have this eraser. What I really like about this kind of an eraser is that it sort of has this flat edge and you can like round it out as you'd like. And this would be really good for really gently removing a little bit of graphite off of your drawing if you like add too much tone in a specific area. Then we have the blending stump. I really like these ones because the tip is really small, so it's really good when adding and blending tone in really small areas. Then I have these makeup brushes. I actually bought a really big pack of makeup brushes on Amazon that have really soft bristles, and they make an excellent tool to like blend your artwork. I used these two smaller brushes to blend different areas of the drawing. This bigger one, I really just keep the tip clean, and whenever I erase certain parts of my drawing and I want to get rid of those little eraser bits, that's what I will use that one for. Then we have our pencils. So we have a 4H, an F, HB, B, 3B, 4B, and 6B. So as you move along to this side, the lead gets softer, and therefore when you draw with them, the pencil is much darker. And then as you move on to this side, like a 4H, the lead would be very, very hard. So when you're drawing with it, the lines go on very, very lightly. So it gives you more control. Something like an F or an HB, I use to draw in like small hairs where I need the line to be nice and crisp, and the lead is harder, so it aids with that kind of control. And it's also dark enough, so anywhere from an F to a B really I would use to put in hair. And then this right over here is sandpaper. So what I really use that for is if I want to dull out the edge of my pencils and make them more rounded so that I can put on more tone evenly in a given area, that's what I'll do. I'll shave them down and then they're ready to use. Of course, a sharpener. And then right here we have a pencil extender. So when your pencils get too short, you can put them in here and then just have more grip and control as you're drawing. And lastly, we have our graphite powder. So, and in a jar for your graphite powder. So when you're buying this sort of material, it's very, very messy, so be careful with it. Put it in a container, and then also make sure that you're buying graphite powder, which is made out of the same material as what's in your pencils. Be careful that you don't buy like something like a charcoal, which would be black when it goes on. This goes on with like a sort of silvery sheen. And that concludes the tools and materials list that I used to draw this next part of the drawing. I hope you found this helpful, and I really do think it's a great addition to any artist's set of materials. So without further ado, let's jump into the drawing. First, I focus on drawing in the darkest parts of the eye. In this case, it's the crease on the eye, the lash line around the iris, and the center of the eye. This helps to ground the drawing and allow us to begin adding tone with confidence. I tend to blend very gently using my soft makeup brushes and a blending stump, building tone gradually in light layers. The blending stump is a great way to add detail into the iris. Sometimes I'll dip the tip of the blending stump in my graphite powder and wipe it on a paper towel or printer paper a few times to get any excess powder off, so I can then gradually add the markings in the iris region. I not only want to add tonal values here, but also be aware of the patterns within the iris and be mindful as we will be bringing out those details later in the drawing. I want to give the illusion that the eyeball is nested under the eyelid, and the best way to do that is to add shadow that will be cast on the eye by the eyelashes we will be drawing in later. When adding tone from your pencil, dull out the tip using the sandpaper to create a rounded edge. It's best to keep shading different bits of the skin and slowly blend the strokes to achieve more darkness rather than adding too much graphite powder and having to start all over again. Sometimes you could lose a bit of detail in the eyebrow region. Take your F pencil and sharpen it, then go in and add the hairs in one by one, slightly rotating your pencil, which will ensure your pencil strokes remain crisp. We want to make sure that all the skin around the eye is almost fully rendered and blended before adding in the eyelashes. When adding in the eyelashes, I like to map out their length and direction and then fill in the amount of hairs in between the divided regions. Pick a harder pencil like an F to do the eyelashes. Sometimes your hand can pick up pieces of graphite while you're drawing. To prevent smudging, use a piece of clean printer paper and rest your hand on it while you draw. Time to add more darkness into the eyebrow. Again, I add the little hairs in bit by bit, making sure the tip is sharp. I don't rush this process. I stop to sharpen my pencil if I need to, and I'll slightly angle the hairs to create a sense of direction. Lastly, I'll go into the iris and add the final details. I'll switch between my blending stub and my smaller eraser to add darkness and highlights to make it look more realistic. I'll use my pencil to bring out the lines. And that concludes the second part of this portrait series. I hope you found this eye drawing tutorial helpful in some ways. Next week, I'll be drawing the nose. If you'd like to see that video, please subscribe and follow along with the rest of this portrait series. Thank you to those that have left kind comments and who have subscribed. Your support means the world. See you in the next video.